Okay, hi everyone. This is just going to be a very short video that's a supplement to the ball bouncing tutorial that you should have already done. In this case, I'm pointing you towards somebody else's tutorial simply because it's a very classic exercise and there's no need for me to remake it again. So if you've done that tutorial, you should have a scene that works exactly the same as mine is working here. It's a 91 frame animation playing on loop where this ball is bouncing and squishing and accelerating at the correct rate. What I'm going to show you in this video is how to render out the animation frames and compile them into a video. Okay, so I'll press spacebar to stop the animation. First, I'm just going to add in a plane for the ball to bounce against. So Shift A, mesh plane, scale it on the x-axis, let's say by 10, and maybe I'll just grab it on the x-axis and move it up. Okay, now I'll just give it a shader, some color. So I've gone into the shading tab, new shader, base color, I don't know, let's make it pink. That's fine. Okay, so I'll just go back. Now I might pop over into the animation tab actually. So I'm in the animation tab, and if I press space, this ball is now bouncing on the plane. So the next thing we have to do is set up a camera. We need a camera to be looking at the ball, and the perspective of the camera is what's going to render out in our frames, which will then become our video. Okay, so by default, there's usually a camera in your scene. But if there's not, I'll just press X and delete the default camera. And I'm going to add in a new camera. So Shift A, excuse me, Shift A, camera. Now that's just popped a camera in there. So I'll grab it on the y-axis and just bring it back a bit. And also up here, I need to set the view of this this viewport. I want this viewport to be what this camera is seeing. So I'm just going to go into these. You know, if your window is more stretched out, you'll probably see a more complete menu. Usually you do. I don't know. These three bars here: view, cameras, selected object as camera. Now that's because I've already got my camera selected, so I'll just show you that again. View, cameras, selected object as camera. Okay, so right now the camera is not seeing anything. That's because you can see it's pointing down away from our scene. So first of all, I'll grab it on the Z-axis, bring it up. Okay, I might just delete some of these rotations. Maybe actually I'll delete all its transforms just so we can do this super clean. So first, I'll rotate it on the x-axis by 90 degrees. RX 90, enter. Okay, so now it's pointing the right way. Grab it on the y-axis, bring it back. Grab it on the z-axis, and now I will rotate it on the x-axis and just point it down. That's pretty good. Let's go to the beginning of the animation. So we can see that you know, the camera is still much too close. We'll only see the ball for about a second. So I'll just bring the camera back on the y-axis, grab it on the y-axis, bring it back. I'll grab it on the z-axis, bring it up a bit, and let's maybe now I'll see if I can just get the whole strip in frame. So grab it on the x-axis, put it in the middle, and then grab it on the y-axis, bring it back, and maybe just there so we don't see the edges, and then I'll grab it on the z-axis, bring it up, and maybe I'll rotate it on the x-axis a bit. Oh, look, that's nice enough. Okay, so we are seeing the edges, but I'm okay with that. Let's just see. I'll press play. Okay, no, so the ball is still bouncing too high, so I've got to get a bit further back. Let's grab it on the grab it on the y-axis, bring it further away, and grab it on the z-axis so we're higher up. Let's just press play again. That's fine. So we've just sort of framed our sequence. The camera is not going to move at all. It'll just stay there where it is. Okay, so that's pretty much it for setting up the camera. I'm just going to do one other little trick, which will be a bit more fun in the compositing stage. So in the rendering tab here, under film, I'm just going to open up this section. You can see that I've ticked this tab transparent. So when transparent is ticked, that means that we're going to have a transparent background. And the benefit of that, a transparent background, is that when we are compiling our video, we can compile this animation on top of another still image or indeed another video, because we'll have that transparency to play with. A couple of other things I just want to set. In the output tab, we have to do a couple of things. To make sure we keep that transparency, make sure that the file format we're outputting to is a PNG file with RGBA selected. So the A here stands for the alpha channel, which is what's going to give us that transparency. So it's red, green, blue with alpha, BW would be black and white, and RGB would just be color without the transparency alpha channel. So PNG and alpha is good. The next thing we're going to want to do is set the render path. So when Blender starts making these 91 frames that we're going to compile into a video, we need to tell Blender where to put them so we can find them when it comes to compiling. Now I should mention now, for those of you who have never worked in animation before, when we render an animation, we render out each individual frame. So in this case, we'll have 91 PNG files. We could set the file format to a movie file directly, but we don't do that with animation. The reason is, sometimes when you've got a huge animation, it might take a few minutes per frame. So that would mean your render time could be, 20 hours. And you want to make sure that even if any issues or any problems happen with the animation, you can simply, if you have a problem halfway, you'll still have half of those frames, but also you won't have any compression on the output. So here we're going to get perfectly clean image files, whereas if we exported a video, we'd have various issues with data rates and other forms of compression that we don't want to use till later. We want to export the highest quality output, which in this case will be individual frames, which then will compile into videos and look at compression. Okay, so set the output path here. I've actually already done this once before, but I've made a new folder hierarchy here for my project. So in the class 5 animation scene, I've made all of these folders that tell me, where I should store all of my, my digital equipment, if you will. So this is what we're going to start using for every project we do now, something like this, where we've got one folder for our project files, one for our rendered frames, one for our rendered video, another one for audio files that we might be using, another one for video files if you might be using them, and another one for textures. And I guess, if you're using After Effects and stuff like that, you could have a new folder also called, let's say, After Effects project files, and whatever other things you might need from After Effects. You might need a renders folder or other things like that. But it's really useful every time you start a project to have a nice folder hierarchy here, so that you can keep all of your components organized. And in the next tutorial for this week, I'll show you the importance of that as well. Okay, but for now, I'm going to select the rendered frames as the output. I'll click accept. And when I render this, it's just going to overwrite the ones I've done before. So that's okay. And now that's all set up. I've got the render path set. I've got my transparency on. I've got the camera in position. And I'll just check my frame range here. It starts at 1 and ends at 91. So it's going to render out that range of frames, 91 frames. Now all I have to do, also, as per the previous tutorial for this, make sure you're in the EV rendering engine, which is the real-time rendering engine. So it's a lot faster than Cycles. And then let's just go render and render animation. And you should have a window like this pop up, and you can see in the top left the frame count. So it's rendering very quickly. It's rendering each frame in less than 1 second, so that's super fast. And I'll just stop the video now, and then I will start the video again when this is done. Okay, so now that the rendering's done, I'll close this window, and now we're going to compile this into a video file. Now this next step you can do in After Effects, because I know that that's the software you're already using in the other component of this course. I'm just going to show you how to do it in Blender, but you know the principles are exactly the same. Some of the interface will just be a little bit different. Okay, so I'm going to go over to the video editing tab here. If you can't see video editing here, just click the plus button and select it from the drop-down menu here. Okay, so now I'm in the video editing tab. I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to add an image sequence. And I will go into my folder hierarchy, and I'll go into my render frames, and I'll just press A to select all of them, and add image strip. So what that's done, I might just move that to frame 1 with G for grab, and just shift it along to frame 1, and put my playhead on frame 1. Now if I press play, what Blender is actually doing is it's not looking at the animation anymore, it's looking at a compilation of 91 frames just playing them one after the other. And we've also got this transparent background. So again, you can do all of this in After Effects as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a background to show you the benefit of, in this case, using an alpha channel so that we can do more in our compositing stage. So I'll just go back to frame 1. I'll hit Shift A again, add image sequence. This time I'll look in my textures folder, and I'm just going to grab maybe this background that I use in the next tutorial. And I have to put it same way as layers work in any other video editing program. I have to put it below my bouncing ball animation. So I'll press G and then Y just to move it on the Y axis and move it down. And I'm just going to grab this handle here and press and just click and drag it out to 91, so it's the same length. Now if I press play, it's going to slow down a little bit just because now Blender is sort of in real time showing us a preview of two different things composited on top of one another, the frame range of the bouncing ball and the background. And now it looks like it's built something up in the cache, so it's a bit quicker. But okay, so there's our lovely little bouncing ball animation. So I will export that now to a video. So pretty similar to the export we did before. If I go into the render tab here, I am going to set the output tab. Go to the output tab, and I'm going to change a couple of things. First, I'm going to change the output path to my, what have I got, render video folder. So that's where I'm putting my rendered video files, and I will put the file format to, in this case I'll do an MPEG video, and I'll just look at the encoding. Matroska is fine, H.264 is fine, and we don't have any audio in. If I wanted to add audio, I can also Shift A, add sound, but maybe we'll do that a bit later in the course. So if we were adding audio, we'd also have to choose an audio codec here. But again, all of this you can obviously do in After Effects, and I assume that's probably where you'll do your compiling, but just to complete the process, I'm showing you the same function in Blender. Okay, so that's all we need to change here. We've changed our output file format to a video and set the file path. So now if I hit render animation again, what Blender's doing this time is it's simply compiling the animation into a video file rather than a frame range. But again, this is probably what you do in After Effects, and I'm not sure the render speed of After Effects, it might be quicker, I don't know off the top of my head. But we'll just let this change, we'll just let this finish. It's going nice and quick. Should be done in a couple of seconds. Okay, just a few more frames. Okay, and we're done. So now, if you go into your Finder, or if you're on a PC, it'll be somewhere else, and you look in the rendered video, there should be a video that's automatically called itself, given itself a name that's just the frame number, frame 1 to frame 91, and you should be able to play that as a video. Okay, that's enough for this tutorial, and the next tutorial we'll look at a little bit more in rendering. Okay, thanks a lot guys. Bye bye.